would probably be a lot more than that, honestly. In that case, then why would I be unwilling to spend $50,000 to go and not only that, give that $50,000 to someone on my team for bringing another great lawyer in? And so this scales all the way up and all the way down based on the revenue that each of these high-end or supply-constrained employees provides the business. Now, those are supply-constrained businesses. And if you're in one of those, you need to recognize it, because the real businesses you're in is attracting, hiring, training, managing, and incentivizing these people to perform. That's the real business, because the demand kind of takes care of itself. Of course, you have to do the basics, but the real issue is going to be on the back end, not the front end. Now, let's flip the tables. There are some businesses that are demand constrained. Now, demand constrained businesses will be typically like e-commerce businesses. Oftentimes, software businesses, specifically B2B software businesses, can be demand constrained. Typical consumer products. Weight loss, for example, is a very demand constrained business. Now, this may sound wild to you, like, wait, I think so many people want to lose weight. Yeah, there's just even more people who supply it and so many different methods for doing it. Now, again, all of these things can shift, right? Supply and demand is a curve, like it can move, right? This is dynamic, and this video exists in time, and unfortunately the environments change. But anybody who's been in fitness would understand that getting customers is actually typically the hardest part. Finding trainers, not that hard. There's lots of people that like training, and they'll even do it for free. Same thing with musicians. Like if you teach music classes, right, one of the difficulties there is attracting people who want to buy music lessons, but there's tons of people who play music and do it for free, right? And so the idea is, which side of this curve are you on? And then whatever that side is asking yourself, how can I gain more leverage over this problem so that I can solve it at scale once and for all, rather than having to solve it continuously over and over and over again. So I'll give you an example. I had a company who came out that we were looking at, and they were a little bit on the smaller side, but they were a home services company. And so the issue they had is they were struggling to attract plumbers. And so one of the things that we put in place for the business was, well, what does a plumber bring in every year? And let's call it $400,000 in gross profit. Okay, so if you have a nut of $400,000 that you know you've got the demand for, they're turning away business because their phone's ringing too much and they can't even take it. What are you willing to pay one time to unlock $400,000 every year in gross profit? Well, if you were to think about that like an investment, right, which would be like, okay, I've got this stock that yields $400,000 in gross profit per year to me. What would I be willing to pay for it? And that's every year. Well, shoot, I'd be at least willing to pay $400,000 if it was a stock, right? That's 100% return, because next year I'm gonna make $400,000 too. Now, there is an element of risk that comes into the equation. What if the person leaves? What if they get fired? What if they're not good? All of those things, so those are for sure there, which means that we would then apply some sort of discount to account for that risk. But I think that one of the big misconceptions that business owners have is they're not willing to pay enough for talent that is the constraint of their business. Like right now, if you could get 10 more, like if you are in a supply constrained business, if you could get 10 more of, not star, just appropriately competent employees who could service the demand that you have, would that double or triple your business? If so, yes. What would you pay in order to double or triple your business? Probably a lot more than it costs you to attract those people. Cool, then what do we do? Well, the easiest thing is incentivize all the people in your existing workforce to go do that recruiting for you. Too many business owners will give like $1,000 referral bonus on something that makes $400,000 a year in gross profit. Well, that's dumb. If I can give $25,000 away or $50,000 away and I can get it solved in a month, then every month, because that $400,000 doesn't happen at once, it happens over this period of time. And so if I can actually solve the problem 2 months earlier, then that means I get to collect $35,000 for 2 more months of gross profit. Okay, so there is a time component of this. So maybe you can get the referral, and maybe it does take you 6 months instead of 3, but you missed out on whatever that is, $105,000 in gross profit that you could have had you just been willing to pay a little bit more, but still less overall. And you still get to keep that person for life. So you'll notice that I'm talking a lot about who in these examples. And, it's one of those big, obvious, trite responses that everyone who is a senior entrepreneur or a senior investor or Warren Buffett or Steve Jobs, they all say the same thing. It's just about the people, right? Bet on the jockey, not the horse.